This here is a very important issue to address. So, Finney and Compton Jay of the Fred Hampton Left went on Generational Change Monday night, hosted by Jen Perelman and her co-host Peter Hager. And the reason why this is important to address is this further extends into the white progressive meltdown that has been happening since Nina Turner lost her special election more than 2 weeks ago. And uh, this is important to address because Afeni and Compton Jay are trying, in this guest appearance, they made the point of direct action and breaking away from the electoral system. And Jen and Peter were not very receptive to that message. So first I'm going to play a clip of what Afeni was trying to get across during that appearance on Monday night.
Right. And standing in solidarity with black people and indigenous people and standing in solidarity with working class white people is not the same thing. So yes, labor is important and we should very much talk about solidarity through labor. But when you talk about FDR, you also forget that a lot of those labor protections were not afforded to black people. So one of the biggest divides I see on the left is a sense of urgency that lacks on the white counterparts, the white leftists, the white whatever that are a part of this movement. Like when like working class people, especially working class black people who don't have health care, black women that are on Medicaid disproportionately, so they're dying on delivery tables 3 times more than white women, our sense of urgency is a little different. And so when we get upset at our representatives for not actually representing us, it's because people are dying. White people are dying too, but black people are dying disproportionately, not only at the hands of the police, but at the hands of our doctors, at the environmental racism, the infrastructural racism that we're dealing with. So I feel like when white leftists use the word solidarity and black leftists use the word solidarity, there's very, very different meanings. And when we don't take heed to that sense of urgency. As the left, we disenfranchise so many black and indigenous people. When we tell them that they need to hurry up and wait for some human rights that we have been deserving of, that we've constantly being left out of, because even Lyndon Baines Johnson was a racist white man, regardless of whatever you want to like. Yes, he wrote the piece of paper, and civil rights is what it is, right? But civil rights does not challenge the nucleus of their power. The nucleus of their power is economic and financial power, the war power. So when we pass civil rights legislation, that doesn't actually challenge the power structure of this country. It just doesn't. But actually investing in the black community, actually investing in working class communities, actually investing in indigenous communities, that changes the power structure of this country. And that's the reason why, I understand what y'all are saying. Like, yes, electoral politics is important. Like, yes, that is a tactic. But we have to build an infrastructure.
All right, that seems very reasonable and very consistent with what Afeni has been saying ever since she joined the Fred Hampton Left. She's been making a point of being more involved with activism, mutual aid, and building power outside the electoral system because with what we've seen is it's a fool's errand. It's failed the left, and with the recent emergence of the squad, it's given too many white people, specifically like Jen and Peter, false hope that they can still that they're on the right track and that just growing the squad will eventually lead to uh, more success and following through. Even though all the evidence from the past several months has been in front of us saying that they're not going to be true fighters of black liberation and for the policies that they campaigned on. Next, let's go into the moment where shit really went down and what led to Compton Jay and Afeni both being kicked off the stream.
No, you just rambled off something. No, you just rambled off something.
No, what I'm saying is, I think that there comes a point where the entire thing just becomes useless in terms of where we're currently going. And so I totally understand where you and Afeni are coming from and the whole concept of the movement. That's why we are here. We absolutely support reparations. We've actually been very vocal at it.
Please don't pander to me. Please do not pander to me right in my face. Do not do that, because what?
Jay, okay.
Done.
It is clear that they.
No, you just rambled off.
As you can see, the problem here is Peter really fucked up here because he thought that he could placate Compton Jay by saying he supports reparations, but it's not any different than when some corporation says Black Lives Matter, because when it comes down to it, they don't really care. They're just saying it to give fake allyship. And what you'll notice is beforehand, what wasn't in this clip is things got really contentious because Compton Jay was talking about how he's lost family members due to the way that due to the failures of electoralism and how policies enacted by Democrats have actively hurt the black community. And he was making the point that he's done with the Democratic Party and done with electoralism, and this is the extension of that white progressive electoralism meltdown. And it's really fucked up that they cannot go through this. They didn't go through that tough conversation that they absolutely needed to have Monday night. But before I really break down everything in the fallout, let's play this little clip of what Jen said after Afeni and Compton Jay got kicked off the stream.
If you want to go,
Because I got to tell you, what's so frustrating about that to me is that the other day when I was watching Tim basically have like a meltdown on his stream because all his people are freaking dying, and that he doesn't have the time that these people are taking to do their actions, form their third parties and whatever they're doing, and for them to go out of their way in so many cases to sabotage Nina. This is what set him off, because he's like, our people are dying. And so the desperation is the same. And for people to come on and be like, they came on here to ambush us. I kind of suspected that. I called it days ago. I was unhappy about this for days. We debated canceling and not even having them. But I'm like, okay, well, if we do that, then they're just going to. But the truth is, and here's the truth, everybody, I'm not on social media. I'm not. Haven't been for about 6 months now. So while people can sit there and say whatever they want about me, and they say it to be hurtful, that's really their purpose. This is all about being hurtful, and just being arrogant and whatever, and not trying to get along and not trying to just like try to come up with solutions, especially from people that really don't know anything about me. It's like I just don't need that.
Again,
so talk about me all you want.
You chose to do what you were going to do. I was going to, again, have the conversation, but
I chose to do what I was going to do. What do you mean?
No, I mean, again, you wanted to, end the conversation because.
Oh, as soon as he was talk to me and just said whatever you were rambling about to me, I was about to remove him right then and there. But you were in the middle of talking to him. You don't come on my. That's coming into my home and talking to me like that. I don't deserve that. There's nothing I did that deserved that kind of vitriol, with the exception of they came on purposefully to do that, which was their plan. And, I do put this 100% on you in front of everybody. He created this. I didn't want these people to come on. And now here we are. And there was no win from this. This was never going to be a win. And
before I address what just transpired here, let's take you. I'm going to take you back to the beginning of the show. I think this happened roughly a year ago, maybe a bit less. But the point is, their show, Generational Change, really did start off having more activist type of people as guests. She had some pretty good guests early on, such as Katie Halper, Rose McGowan, Rania Kalik. She's had Justin Jackson on multiple times. Her first episode was with professional wrestler Matt Sydal. So, be honest, her show started off promising. I mean, she even had Nick from the Fred Hampton Leftists on about, I think, a month ago. And that was a pretty smooth conversation. But things started to... The signs of Jen Perelman starting to trend in the wrong direction came the moment that she was supportive of Vaush. And not only that, it really started to take effect once she went on his show, and the fact that she got a lot of Vaushites as subscribers, and that helped put her over the top to eventually get monetization on her YouTube channel. And recently, she started to push back on some of Vaush's bad takes. But then what you notice is over time she's had less of those left activist type of guests and more establishment-y type politicians, or the progressives who are trying to run from the inside. And that's also part of the trend that I noticed going in the wrong direction there, because she started to lose more of the balance. And I also felt like she was trying to cast too wide of a tent, and for this so-called left unity, which really boils down, and when it gets exposed in a negative way, it really just comes down to black people shut up and trust the plan. And that's when it got exposed here. Now let's address what was said in this clip after Afeni and Compton Jay left the show. So first off, she has the audacity to really decide which black anger is valid to her, and saying that Tim Black's anger is valid, but at the same time condemn the anger of Compton Jay and Afeni? Are you serious? Oh yeah, it's because his anger, Tim Black's that is, tied into her electoralism and this whole straw manning of anyone who doesn't take your belief of electoralism politics as just being a third party. Let's be honest, there's a lot of activists who don't believe or find it hard to trust any third party at this time. But what is easier to do is build up a mutual aid network and move on to direct action. Because if you're a true believer of direct action, you believe that whether it's squad progressives or your average corporate Democrats, is that you're going to move them all the same if your direct action is effective. So let's be honest about that. Because this is very problematic. She really went to these people type of trope, which is honestly some of the more overt type of covert racism that you see here. And you could see a tiny bit of tension because Peter was sounded at least willing to fail through that conversation. But Jen, a podcast is not like your house, especially if you're using your platform in a right and responsible way. And if you're really genuine about building a left-wing movement. Because, once again, this is very much along the lines of the whole white progressive false unity. Because the left isn't going to get its victories through electoralism. And this is just an example of the further meltdown that these white progressives have when black people and other people of color do not subscribe to your views on electoralism. But alas, because these people put way too much stock into the idea of electoral politics. Because, let's be honest, even as much as people like myself are down on the idea of electoral politics, it's still a complicated relationship with it because you still kind of have to call out the establishment's bad faith attacks, even on progressives that you're not going to vote for or donate to, just to make sure that they don't control narratives. And the other thing with electoralism is you still need it to bring new people into the fold, at least from an issue standpoint. So those are like small things, small purposes that you would at least still need to do in terms of using electoral politics in a small way, while not burning through millions of dollars that could have been used to really solidify a mutual aid network. Just think about it. That could be like millions of dollars that if weren't donated to these progressive politicians could have already been used to build up a true mutual aid networks to help direct actions such as a general strike. But this story has more. Jordan Sheraton. He's been on the radar a lot for having a lot of bad analysis. And this is just another example of it. I've met Jen Perelman several times and covered her congressional campaign. She doesn't have a racist bone in her body, and one of her main campaign proposals was real criminal justice reform and legalizing marijuana from a racial justice perspective. She also went to Cleveland to knock on doors to elect Nina Turner, not because of her race, but because of her politics and moral character. You can disagree with her or be upset with her, but she is a great person and strong progressive. There isn't a white person on earth who hasn't benefited from white supremacy and doesn't have racial blind spots or has had to be educated. But that's not the same thing as being a racist. I look forward to Jen continuing to cover issues that others are ignoring. And I should add specifically, I just watched the end of the interview. Watch the full thing area. I personally would have not abruptly discontinued the interview or used the phrase, these people came off the wrong way, although I don't think Jen meant it maliciously or racially. And that's why Jordan's heading down the wrong route here, because these are the type of problems with the lack of understanding that white people have when it comes to being covertly racist, even though these people is probably among the more overt covert racism that there is. She should apologize for that and make clear that what she was trying to say, I'm not a white person trying to tell black people how to feel or declaring for them who is racist. Intention of my tweet was to talk about the person I know who I know cares deeply about racial justice. Look, a great point that Afeni and Compton Jay were trying to make is that if you're putting way too much stock into electoral politics, it's really going to misguide you from trying to really go about racial justice, because one of the big themes of that interview is, oh, I support direct action, but then following quickly tearing down the idea at the same time. And someone who looks down on black people or would intentionally try to disregard their understandable anger and experience. And as I just referenced, she pretty much selectively validated which black anger to support and condemn other types of black anger which cannot be tolerated, which is what she did with Tim Black, while at the same time condemning the black anger of Compton Jay and Afeni. I should also say, I know Peter, he's a good guy, but with that said, I don't think it was right for him to bring up he supports reparations seemingly out of nowhere. It was indeed pandering and a bit racially blind, although I am sure he didn't know and meant it that way. This is the type of managerial protection that far too many white people do when they are not in the position to be the judges of racism, or also be the ones to protect people from coming around on the issues and shielding them from these moments where they should really be learning lessons, and that's the problem with what Jordan Sheridan did here, is the fact that instead of validating the points that were made by many black leftists and other people of color here, is the fact that what he really did was shield her from having the real from having the opportunity for real redemption. And the more white electoral people that do this whole shielding or protection of this are gonna prevent true growth from happening here. So that's the main problem, and this shows the disconnect that Jordan has from some of the activist analysis of what's going on here, because for as much as Jordan and Jen Dies are on the ground, and they do some valuable work there, but the problem is when it comes to but their analysis matches more with people, the elite white progressive podcasters who aren't really involved in the activism type of scene and are mainly doing analysis from a newsroom or a webcam. So that's a very bad look on his part. He's also had other instances of where he's come out in defense of protecting politicians from stronger pressure and attacking activists who are more aggressively trying to challenge politicians and hold their feet to the fire. But that's not it. I wasn't gonna go into this, but I figure that this can't be ignored, in my opinion. So this comes from Adam Christensen, and he's one of those reformed Republicans. And once this tweet loads, I'll show you the problem with what he is doing here. Because there's like numerous amount of tweets that could have been shown to demonstrate how disconnected he is from black people. But I figured this was the best demonstration of that. So he decided, even after Jen Perelman has at least made small concessions that she fucked up here. There's been a couple of these white progressive shut up and trust the plan type of electoralist types who are willing to take that sword in place of Jen and Peter. And this is just an example of that. I have zero patience anymore for the Fred Hampton Leftist. I have a podcast bullshit. Lots of us don't have health care. We all want Medicare for all. Doesn't mean you constantly bringing up stupid shit you misunderstood from 7 months ago is helpful. You lost all credibility. Now go away. No, Adam Christensen. You're the real person who lost credibility because you're a failed politician. You lost your first attempt to get into office, and you've went on a tirade of tweets insulting the black left. And we don't have patience for your electoralism bullshit. Shut up, trust the plan, because what also got exposed from these tweets is the fact that you're finger wagging in their faces and telling them you're just going to be like more of those same fucking squad members who aren't going to fight for you once they make it into office. And the last thing we need right now is false idols, false allies who aren't going to follow through on their campaign promises. And the fact that we got fucking idiots like these who are willing to double down on the same fucked up bullshit that went down Monday night. And it's clear to me these people want nothing to do with the left, such as the Fred Hampton left, because Fred Hampton left just started a little over 4 months ago, and it's the best. It's the current best platform best independent channel we've got on the left right now. They've got organizers like Rome Bethea and Afeni with his Tour for the Poor, and Afeni with her mutual aid and activism work in DC, in addition to other people who have done prior activist work like Nick, Socialist MMA. Then you've also got Compton Jay, Jackie Poles, RJ, and James Fauntleroy, in addition to other new members they've added like Killjoy Meg, Sabby Sabs, who is now getting more involved in local activism in the Boston area. And also the other couple members featured in that group are Sherry Barber and Andy Kennedy. So the Fred Hampton left is the biggest growing independent left movement, and what it's being proved is the white progressives are continuing to melt down over black people advocating to work outside the two-party system. And not only that, they also understand that the system is so rigged that you really can't do anything with third parties other than use it as a tool of leverage. And that's why advocating for mutual aid, and they often talk about serious issues that are important to the black community. And lastly, we aren't going to have a serious left-wing movement unless it prioritizes the needs of black people and other people of color, because when you got these white progressives like Adam Christensen who decide that to shut up and trust the electoralism plan and to focus on just class issues, then discard issues related to the black community, that we ain't gonna have real progress with that. Don't get me wrong, there's certain class issues that will help, but they don't truly bridge the racial inequality gap in this country. And if you're discarding mutual aid and direct action, then you're just flat out not serious about getting any of that done. And that's why, if you're someone who doesn't really watch much independent left content, uh, Fred Hampton Leftists need to be your number one priority. You, that's the one show out there, in my opinion, that if you only get to pick one show, that's the one show that you need to watch. And try to watch all the content that they put up on a daily basis, because I understand that there's so many channels out there and they're recently starting to grow. And Fred Hampton Left is the one to prioritize first and foremost, and continue to advocate for the voices of their network, prioritize listening to them, because if you only listen to the white elite progressives that are in this movement, the long, well-established ones, you're gonna have moments where you're insensitive, indifferent, and come off with a lack of understanding on black issues. And this thing that happened Monday night on Generational Change is an example of the disconnect of that white progressives have with the black leftist, and why we must continue to constantly point out when people like Jen, Peter, Adam are wrong, because if we don't and we let them get away with it, then their message is going to be the over prevailing message here. And we can't let that happen. And it's important that people put their solidarity behind the Fred Hampton Left.